some of the logistics. We are right now going to the tours mainly of the Western Wall. We're right now about here. And we're going to go like this. We finish the tour here. With this large of a group, we're definitely not going to come back. It's just too many people running into traffic going the other way. So we're going to go through the old city and then come back to the entrance here. Did anybody have any other plans from leaving the old city and then traveling on their own? If not, we'll be one group. Well, this is the introductory room, and here we have a model, and we have some screens that can show you a little bit of the background of Mount Moriah, of the Western Wall, and of the tour that we're going to be doing today. First thing that I want to ask, how many of you have been here before on the Kotel Tunnel tours? Okay, I know that I talked to a few of you. Some of you were here 15 years ago. So, it'll be a review. Okay, how many of you, is this your first time in Israel? Okay, well, everybody sees it. So, I'm going to go over a little bit of where we are. Right now, in the model, we're right over here. Okay, we're right over here. If you take a look at the geography, this is Mount Moriah, which is to the back of me. Where you guys are, that's where the Western Hill is, where you have the Jewish Quarter, and you have the Shuk, and you have a street coming down. It comes down around right in this area over here, to the south. We have the city of David. We have the city of David, where most archaeologists believe that's where Jerusalem started, right around over here, okay, in this area over here. If we go over very quickly some of the history of the place, on Mount Moriah, in the Bible history, we have, it's mentioned when Abraham brings his son Isaac for the test of faith, for the Akedah, from Beersheba, comes up and plans to sacrifice him on the hill in the land of Moriah. That's one mention. We fast forward in the Bible, we have someone building the first temple. Anybody know who built the first temple? King Solomon, Shlomo HaMelech. Fast forward a few hundred years later, and in 586 BC, we have Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian, destroy the temple. 70 years later, the Judeans come back and start building, albeit a smaller version of the temple. I'm throwing out a year, of course, there are arguments about the year, but let's call it 516 BCE. Now we're going to fast forward, going through several powers. At that point it was the Persians, then you had the Greeks, then you had the Asmoneans, Jewish kingdom, then you had the Romans come in, and when the Romans were here, there was a Jewish vassal king by the name of King Herod. Who was King Herod? King Herod was a Jewish king, but he was also a Roman, a mix between the two. And one of the things that he wanted to do as a ruler, he wanted to impress. He wanted to build the biggest temple in the Roman world. So what he did, how was he going to do it? He said, I'm going to first smooth out the Acropolis, smooth out the head of the mountain, and I'm going to put a structure. I'm going to cut into the rock in the north, because the hill goes up, okay, the limestone hills go up at a slight slant over here, and I'm going to build arches in the south, such as where we are right now. Now, let me get it the right way. He built a platform that essentially exist to today. He then refurbished the temple. Refurbished the temple, and it was an impressive temple. It was the biggest temple in the Roman Empire at that time. Whoever has not seen Herod's building, okay, for those of you that know the Marot, for those of you that know the Daf Yomi, okay, Baba Basra, has not seen a beautiful building in his life. But, again, fast forwarding, we then have a destruction, okay? But before the destruction, what was then? Because we're going to concentrate on this era. We're going to concentrate on the second temple right before the destruction. Some of the things that we're going to see, we're not going to see the temple here, okay? It doesn't exist. There's a western wall. Now, when you say you want to go to the western wall, generally what you think about, first of all, it's the plaza. The plaza is over here. It's about 57 meters long, but the western wall is much, much longer. It's almost a half a kilometer. It's about 488 meters from here to here. Some of the things that we see here are things that the archaeologists found. So I'm going to go one by one. Over here, we have something called Robinson's Arch. It's on the southern part of the Western Wall. If any of you have been to the Davidson Center, you can see the beginning of the arch, and above it, there was a gate, a huge gate. Right over here, we have another gate. It's called Barclay's Gate. For any of you that's been in the women's section, you can see a very, very small part of the top of the lintel of the gate, the high point of the gate over here. Right above us, right now, if you notice, we have an arch, okay? There was a bridge that we're going to concentrate on that would take you from the Western Hill to the Temple Mount. What was it used for? It was used to get to the Temple Mount. Okay? People that were lay rego, people that were pilgrims, people that were priests. Okay? They found priest homes in the Jewish quarter. It was a nice way to get to the Temple Mount. Also, in the temple, okay, you needed a lot of water. For what? For the sacrifices. A lot of sacrifices. So, the last leg of a very, very long aqueduct coming from the area of Bethlehem passed over this bridge over here. What is the bridge made up of? It's made up of arches. And we're going to get a little more into it in the next stop that we have over here. We have a street above us. We have a street that exists to today that's called the Shalshelet Street. And over there's a gate. It's not the exact same gate that they had at the Temple Mount, but it's very, very close to what was there. And some of the archaeologists say they can make out some pieces of the stones, possibly of the gate that was there during the time of the Second Temple. There's another gate over here that is now called Warren's Gate, that's named after Charles Warren, one of the first diggers, archaeologists, engineers that dug here, and we're going to pass by it. If you notice over here in the bridge, which is made up of arches, right next to the Kotel, there's a large arch. There's a very large arch. That arch is called Wilson's Arch. We'll talk about it in a minute. Why is it larger than others? It's named after Charles Wilson, another British engineer, archaeologist. There was a street for the pilgrims, a street for the Olay Regel below it, and you needed a bridge large enough to pass over. Now, if we go over to, in the 70 AD, the Romans destroyed the temple. And buildings above were destroyed. If you notice, the Temple Mount was a little difficult to destroy. You're going to see some of the effects of the Romans trying to destroy it, but it was difficult, okay? Everything above where the floor was possible, below more difficult. The bridge also what was above what was destroyed, and then afterwards it was reused over time. And then if I fast forward over again, well, you have the temple. The temple is destroyed. In 691, in the place where we have the Holy of Holies of where the temple was, we have the Dome of the Rock. In the southern part, we have the Al-Aqsa Mosque. We then had the Crusaders. Then other Muslims came back. Then we had Muslims called the Mamluks. The Mamluks were servant kings coming from Egypt. And what they did, in the same way, over the valley, the guy where the bridge was made, they decided they're going to platform the whole valley. Okay? Makes sense, okay, for real estate. The Temple Mount was the prime place in Jerusalem, and you wanted to have easy access. So instead of having only one viable gate with the bridge, we now have, up till now, we have many gates. So most of what Jerusalem looks like right next to the Western Wall comes from the platforms that we're going to be walking under from the Mamluk time. And here, if we have a depiction, this is somewhat what the Western Wall, the Western Wall Plaza looked like before it was expanded. In 1967, Israel captured Jerusalem. The digs started here and they're continuing. Okay? So what you're seeing right now is the classical door. There's another door with digs that they found more recently over the last 10 years. And they're continuing digging. Okay? They're continuing digging. So every once in a while, you're going to see more and more fantastic stuff. Are there any questions at this point? No questions?
What was the name of the gate right over the bridge? You named all the other ones.
Okay.
You named those.
It's called the Shalshelet right now, okay? But what it was then, okay, all the gates that I talked about then, they have modern names, okay? These are the modern names. It's unclear what the original names are. Right? We have Josephus tool. All right. So, if any of you don't understand something or have comments, just feel free to ask. All right? And we're going to continue, and right now we are going to continue over. If we are right now over here, we're going to be right about over here, next stop. And we're going to talk about this arch over here. It's just that it's not part of the tour. It's difficult to go in and out. I'll tell you about Wilson's arch over here. Everyone come in. Come in. We're very large. We're large. And I know that this is the only poster that I have. If you want to take it, and if you can't see it well, then there's a few more here, and you can have a look at a little bit closer. So right now we're right about over here, and we're under an arch of what was once something called the Great Bridge. To go over what the Great Bridge was all about, we needed a bridge to go from one side of a valley. Okay, this valley was called the Tyropian. According to Josephus, the historian, it was also called the Guide. So going from the western hill over to Mount Moriah right behind it. It was done because it's the right way to do it. Don't go up and down into a valley. Okay? If you go up and down into a valley, it's going to be difficult. Okay, difficult. And in Jerusalem, if any of you have been here, in the winter it rains, and you can have heavy rains, and you're going to get yourself muddy. Another reason, okay, and I'll try to expand a little bit, is that there was an aqueduct. There was an aqueduct that, by gravitation, would take water from the hills of Bethlehem, which is in a straight line, it's about 10 kilometers, but this particular aqueduct wound around about 20 kilometers. And what was the water used for? It was used for multi-purpose. One of the reasons, obviously, was for the sacrifices. If you're going to have a lot of sacrifices on the Temple Mount, and okay, there are reports that there were, you're going to need it for cleaning up, among other things. You're going to need it for the Ole Rega, for drinking water. Another reason is that you're going to need it for, in Judaism, for ritual purity, for something called a ritual purity bath, something called a mikvah. So, at the time of the Second Temple, they found, up until now, and there might even be more in this area, about 160, 170 mikvahs, which is an enormous amount. Okay? It's more than, from what I know, they have in Jerusalem right now for the thrones. You can't see it, okay? But at one point you can. But underneath, in this hole, you can see one of the mikvahs. Beneath us, right now, there are 3 of the mikvahs. 3 of the 100 some odd mikvahs. You can see it on the other tour, a little closer. Also, if you ever go to the Davidson Center archaeological site, they have about 50 or 60 mikvahs, ancient mikvahs that you can see over there. And this water was used also for mikvahs. It was kosher enough. So, we talked about having a bridge. We talked about having, if you remember, we talked about having a street, a pilgrimage street. Now, a pilgrimage street couldn't fit, okay, because it was a big street with shops on both sides underneath an arch of such size. So behind me, there's a bigger arch that we now call the Wilson Street. Then, how can you see it? If you go in the men's section into the plaza and then turn left, okay, and you want to get away from the hot sun, that's where Wilson's Arch is. Or there's a women's section that you come in the same entrance that you came in, and you continue, and it's right behind us over here. Now, it was large arch. There's a bottom section that you can see that they dug about 10 years ago. They found a whole lot of really interesting things underneath the arch that you can see in the Great Bridge tour. You can see parts of the western wall that are really, really good condition. You can see shops. You can see a theater that was built later on. Again, concentrated still on one section. So, right now, we have a feeling of being under the bridge, but if you notice, we have arches to all sides of us. Why? If you remember, we're in the middle of a valley, and later on, the Mamluks, not only the Mamluks, they wanted to platform as much as they can the valley, the guy that they have over here, the valley called the Guide. So most of it, what we're going to be walking underneath today, was open to the sky at the time of the Second Temple, but right now it's underneath 700-year arches. No, this one is 2,000 years old. Any questions at this point? Right, okay. You had two sets of arches because an arch, okay, was for structure because at the height at certain parts of the arch, okay. In this section over here, all the sections that we have on the tour, the valley was very, very deep, and we needed two stories of water. What? We're right now on the top. We're right now. What? Really hard right now. Trying to leave this upside down. Like this, we should be right about here. We should be right about here. Okay. It's difficult if you're not close by. I mean, I know because I'm relatively new here, and I was with large groups trying to see. Can I see from afar? I want you to get the gist of what you see, and from here on in, what I'm going to do is show you less of the diagram because you're here to see what you can see and less of the diagram. Okay, and I want you to sort of breathe in, especially the things that we're going to start seeing. All right. Let's continue. What? No. This is the only place, all other places. I'm not. Stops, all of them archaeological stops. Right, instead of me telling you what you're seeing, and I might not be telling you really what's there, tell me what do you see?
Very, very big stone.
What? A big stone.
Very big stone.
Okay. 2 rows of stones.
Yeah, to these sides.
What?
One this side with a frame, the other one still to help.
Okay. What else do you see? I can't hear you. What? Right, holes over here. What else do you see? What? Right, smaller stones over here.
These times are covered. The cement.
Okay. All right. No. It's good. Okay. First of all, I learned from what people say. So I'm going to try to go over everything that you said and try to put it all into place. So, first of all, you're at the Western Wall. This is part of the Western Wall. The Western Wall is not only the plaza of the Western Wall. And if I ask, if I didn't make it clear, and I didn't make it clear beforehand, is the Western Wall of the temple? No. Okay? It's not. Okay? But not everyone gets it right. It's the Western Wall of the supporting wall of the Temple Mount on which you had a temple. The temple was a building that was on the Western Wall. Okay? So first of all, it's not the Western Wall of the temple, It's the western wall of the Temple Mount. I'm going to go over certain things that people said. What you have over here is you have examples of what Herodian stone is. Okay? There are a few massive projects built by King Herod and his successors that signify what really fancy late Second Temple period stones look like. So what do they look like? First of all, they're smooth. They have frames, okay? It's difficult to see from where you're at, but when we're going to be passing by, we can pass by a few hundred meters of Herodian stone. You're going to see that even on the part that juts out, the boss, there's a small frame with a lot of the stones. And here there are two frames. Here you can see a frame, another frame, and there are even some that are three frames. Why was it done? To be fancy, to make it look nice. Another thing that you can notice over here, you can notice that the stones that are smooth, they're not exactly one on top of another. There's a little bit of a step here, and you're going to notice in other places that you're going to go to, is you're going to see between the stones, between the rows of stones, you're going to see in the range of a half an inch between the different rows, one going back into another. What was the reason? The western wall, in some places, according to archaeologists, was in the range of 150 feet high, which is a huge building. Okay, a huge building for that time. And Roman architecture states that if you're going to have a large building, okay, the right way to do it aesthetically is to set the stones back a little bit so you don't have to feel that the building's going to fall on you. Another reason is a little bit of a support reason, which we're going to get to in a minute, is that if you set the stones back, it's going to give a little bit of support that you have. Now, someone mentioned this is a huge stone. Okay? And they call this tour the Great Stone. So I forgot to bring my laser. So I need a volunteer. I'm going to volunteer you that I don't know your name. Go down to the end of the stone over there. Okay, you pass by. Come back. See the end of the stone? Okay. And I need another volunteer to go to the end of the stone over there. Okay? What's your name? Nahum. Can you go to the end of the stone over there? Okay. Now, if you take a look where Nahum is and no name, okay? It's large. How long do you think the stone is? Okay. What? About, okay? It's a little less than 45 feet, okay? It's a little less than 14 meters. You guys can go back, okay? How tall was the stone? Well, if you take the highest point right about there, we're in the range of about a little less than 11 feet. Okay, very, very tall. Now in general, okay, the height of the average height of a row of stones is in the range of about 4 feet. So here we're talking about almost 3 times the amount of a regular stone. How deep is it? We don't know. There are 2 theories, okay? One theory, they took other stones that they found, its depth, and they found up to 4.5 meters. And they're thinking, this stone has to be 4.5 meters. But then they brought engineers from the United States to try to measure with a ground-penetrating radar machine, and they came up with much less. Okay, maybe 2.5 meters. But there are arguments over the accuracy of it. Regardless, this is one large stone. Now people ask how heavy it is. So, don't know. It depends upon the dimensions, okay? It depends upon the relative weight of the stone, which we know, it's limestone. So limestone is about 2.6 2.7 times heavier than water. So if we take the maximum weight, we're in the range of, let's say, 600 tons, in the range of, let's say, 9,000 people. Okay? Okay? A large stone. So, any questions? The first question is,
How did they get it?
what? How did they get it there? Save the question. First of all, they did get it there. Don't know, but it was by Roman engineering, and we're going to see a movie about Roman engineering and the various methods that possibly were used, how they got it over here.
Okay, so what are the holes for?
Right. Okay. So, what are the holes for? What are the pegs for? What is this wall over here for? If you could just guys step back a little bit. And what is this over here? Okay, this is plastic. So, things happened over time. About plus minus 500 years after the destruction of the Second Temple, you didn't have the same holiness. This was a good, solid wall. And there was a water reservoir here, sometime approximately during the Roman Byzantine, Christian Byzantine time, or possibly the early Muslim time, or possibly both. Now, to build a reservoir, you need plaster because the stone here is limestone. It has cracks, and it's not going to hold water. So the thing that made the reservoir waterproof was the plaster over here. Now, if they would have put the plaster right on this wall, it's a smooth wall. It's just going to fall off. So what they did is they put in holes. They took pegs, like over here. They joined this smooth wall to a rough wall, not as nice wall over here. And on the rough wall, they put the plaster for the reservoir. There, can you just pass me this over here?
Was the top of the wall?
What?
Was the top of the stone uneven, or
I can't hear you.
the top of the wall?
Yeah.
It's not even. It was like
Right.
up and down.
So, other things about this stone over here. This is the largest stone in the Western Wall. Now, when they destroyed the Western Wall, along with the old temple area, it was very easy to destroy things above where the floor is. But to destroy things below the floor, it's an extreme amount of effort, and what is it going to give you? Because they're going to continue using it. So, you can see is that there was the tide chipping off over here, but I guess they were going, why go through all that effort? Don't know what the reason is, but you can see is that they did destroy this part of the rock, and it was very obviously done deliberately. Now, one of the questions is why, by the way, this is not the only large stone here. We have 4 stones with the same height of about 3.5 meters that we're going to pass by, some of them here. One of them is almost as long. Why do they put this master course, this master road specifically here? So I'm going to give a theory. It's only a theory. Number one, it was done to impress. People walk below the road